Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, entitled Creation, Chapter 11, Departure of Lord Krishna to Dwaraka. So Lord Krishna's entrance into Dwaraka, text number 19. Varamukhyascha sataso Yanaistadarshanotsukah Lasat-kundala nirbhata Kapola vadana shriyah Varamukhyascha sataso Yanaistadarshanotsukah Lasat kundala nirbhata Kapola vadana shriyah Varamukhyascha sataso Yanaistadarshanotsukah Lasat kundala nirbhata Kapola vadana shriyah. Varamukhyascha sataso Danischa darshana sukha Lasat kundala nirbhata Kapola vadana shriyah. Varamukhyascha sataso Yanaistadarshanotsukah Lasat kundala nirbhata Kapola vadana shriyah. Varamukhyascha sataso Yanaistadarshanotsukah Lasat kundala nirbhata Kapola vadana shriyah. Varamukhyascha sataso Yanaistadarshanotsukah Lasat kundala nirbhata Kapola vadana shriyah. Synonyms: Varamukhya, well-known prostitutes. Cha, and Satasaha, hundreds of. Yanaihi, by vehicles. Tad darshana, for meeting him, Lord Shri Krishna. Utsukaha, very much anxious. Lasat, hanging. Kundala, earrings. Nirbhata, dazzling. Kapola, forehead. Vadana, face. Shriyaha, beauty. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes began to proceed on various vehicles. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and their beautiful faces were decorated with dazzling earrings, which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads. Translation with repetition. At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes began to proceed on various vehicles. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and their beautiful faces were decorated with dazzling earrings, which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. We may not hate even the prostitutes if they are devotees of the Lord. Even to date, there are many prostitutes in great cities of India who are sincere devotees of the Lord. By tricks of chance, one may be obliged to adopt a profession which is not very adorable in society, but that does not hamper one in executing devotional service to the Lord. Devotional service to the Lord is uncheckable in all circumstances. It is understood herewith that even in those days, about 5,000 years ago, there were prostitutes in a city like Dwaraka where Lord Krishna resided. This means that prostitutes are necessary citizens for the proper upkeep of society. The government opens wine shops, but this doesn't mean that the government encourages the drinking of wine. The idea is that there is a class of men who will drink at any cost. And it has been experienced that prohibition in great cities encouraged illicit smuggling of wine. Similarly, men who are not satisfied at home require such concessions, and if there is no prostitute, then such low men will induce others into prostitution. It is better that prostitutes be available in the marketplace so that the sanctity of society can be maintained. It is better to maintain a class of prostitutes than to encourage prostitutes within society. The real reformation is to enlighten all people to become devotees of the Lord, and that will check all kinds of deteriorating factors of life. Sri Bilwa Mangal Thakura, a great Acharya of the Vishnu Swami Vaishnava sect, in his householder life was overly attached to a prostitute who happened to be a devotee of the Lord. One night, when the Thakura came to Chintamani's house in torrents of rain and thunder, Chintamani was astonished to see how the Thakura could come on such a dreadful night after crossing a foaming river which was full of waves. She said to Thakura Bilwa Mangala that his attraction for the flesh and bone of an insignificant woman like her would be properly utilized. The child can be taken out, please don't. Attraction for the flesh and bone of an insignificant woman like her would be properly utilized if it could be diverted to the devotional service of the Lord to achieve attraction for the transcendental beauty of the Lord. It was a momentous hour for the Thakura, and he took a turn towards spiritual realization by the words of a prostitute. Later on, the Thakura accepted the prostitute as his spiritual master. And in several places of his literary works, he has glorified the name of Chintamani, who showed him the right path. In Bhagavad Gita 9.32, the Lord says, O son of Pratha, even the low-born Chandalas and those who are born in a family of unbelievers, and even the prostitutes shall attain perfection of life if they take shelter of unalloyed devotional service to me. Because in the path of devotional service, there are no impediments due to degraded birth and occupation. The path is open for everyone who agrees to follow it. It appears that prostitutes of Dwaraka, who were so eager to meet the Lord, were all his unalloyed devotees, and thus they were all on the path of salvation, according to the above version of Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, the only reformation that is necessary in society is to make an organized effort to turn the citizens into devotees of the Lord. And thus all good qualities of the denizens of heaven will overtake them in their own way. On the other hand, those who are non-devotees have no good qualifications whatsoever, however they may be materially advanced. The difference is that the devotees of the Lord are on the path of liberation, whereas the non-devotees are on the path of further entanglement in material bondage. The criterion of advancement of civilization is whether the people are educated and advanced on the path of salvation. Thus, since the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport, Om Ajnanatimrandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So this is in continuation of what we have been seeing. Lord Krishna is entering into the city of Dwaraka. There are various things we have seen in the past. How the roads are decorated, how the doors are decorated, how the entrance of every house is decorated. And today we have another beautiful verse which says, Vara mukhyascha sataso yanaistad darshanotsukaha lasat kundala nirbhata kapola badanashriya. The first word that is used here is called Vara Mukhyas. Vara Mukhya. Mukhya is prominent. Vara is prostitute. Vara Mukhya, well-known prostitutes. Vara Mukhyascha Sataso. Sataso is hundreds. Hundreds of prostitutes. You see, interestingly, Bhagavatam and Prabhupada's presentation of Bhagavatam is a very unique thing. Few years back when we had COVID, right, so, I mean, you can remember there were two things very common in people's lives. One was mask, other one was sanitizer. Right? Even in our temple we used to have sanitizer, right? So people were coming, anything they touch they want to sanitize. Right? Interestingly, the word that is used is not a very comfortable one. Right? It says prostitutes, well-known prostitutes. Prabhupada didn't sanitize the word. He didn't. He intentionally preserves the discomfort. That's the beauty of Bhagavatam. One question may come, why? Because Bhagavatam is not moralistic. It's not about some moral principles. It is transformational. In the beginning of Bhagavatam itself, Bhagavatam says, Dharma projita kaitavo atro paramo nirmad saranam satam. This is meant for paramo nirmad saranam satam. 100% pure in the heart. Free from matsara. Dharma projita kaitavo. Not some cheating religion. Not to please somebody. Hey, how can you say no? That's why when you see from Bhagavatam's vision, when you see from Bhagavatam's perspective, you see some gems. You see some wonderful things which Bhagavatam talks about. Let's see. There's one word. There are a few sentences which Prabhupada makes. This whole thing becomes something else. So, Vara Mukhyascha Sataso. Vara Mukhyas. The prostitutes, hundreds of them. Cha Sataso. Yanais tad darshanotsukaha. Then the third line, Prabhupada is using one word, Lasat Kundala Nirbhata. Right? If you recall, during Kartik month we sing the song, Namami Swaram Satchidananda Rupam Lasat Kundala. Lasat Kundala Nirbhata. Lasat Kundala, Prabhupada's translation. Kundala is earrings. Earrings which are hanging. Right? Lasat Kundala Nirbhata. Nirbhata is, Prabhupada's translation is dazzling. Lasat Kundala Nirbhata. So hanging earrings, you see sometimes earrings, if they're a little long, they're hanging. Lasat kundala nirbhat, and they're dazzling, very beautiful. Kapola vadana shriyaha. Kapola is the forehead, vadana is the face. Shriya, beautiful. These earrings, when they are, hanging, the beautiful face of the Lord, or of whose? Prostitutes are looking so beautiful. Now, one question one should ask: Ho kya raha hai? This is Bhagavatam. Why are we talking about prostitutes, hundreds in numbers, and their beauty is being described? What's going on? There is one word here. That one word can change the whole thing. That's why Bhagavatam is mentioning about this. Yanaistad darshanotsukaha. It is not sukha. Utsuka. Utsuka. They are eager. They are anxious. That is the qualification. Yaneistad darshanotsukaha. Vara mukhyascha sataso yaneistad darshanotsukaha. Lasat kundala nirbhata kapola vadana shriya. Bhagavatam's presentation is so amazing, right? So the point here is, as I mentioned at the beginning, Bhagavatam is not about some moralistic thing. This is right, wrong. It's transformational. Right? When you hear this, and Prabhupada's first line in the purport is talking about, we may not hate even the prostitutes if they are devotees of the Lord. Even to date, there are many prostitutes in great cities of India who are sincere devotees of the Lord. One reader or a listener may quickly jump into this conclusion that even prostitutes can become devotees. But there is a deeper inversion. There is a deeper point that we should see. This verse, this text or this verse of Bhagavatam is not glorifying the prostitutes. No. It is glorifying bhakti as independent of material designation. That is the point. It is glorifying bhakti as independent of material designation. Prabhupada quotes in the purport 9.32, right? Striyo Vaishyas Tatha Sudras Tepi Yanti Param Gatim. We know that verse in Bhagavad Gita. Often people say, once I become pure, then I will take up to the path of devotion. Once I become completely, what if I am not able to follow this? What if I take up to this devotion and what if I fail? Bhagavatam's assertion is, you don't have to wait to become pure because bhakti itself is pure. You don't have to become pure and then take to bhakti. No. Bhakti itself is purifying. You take to bhakti. Don't wait to become pure. Then the whole life is insufficient. We can never become pure. Bhakti itself is purifying. In one place, Prabhupada is saying, generally in our mind we think that first let's become pure and then approach Krishna. But Bhagavatam is saying that approach Krishna and you will become pure. Approach Krishna and you will become pure. Purification comes by approaching, by chanting, by associating. Approach Krishna. Don't wait. Otherwise lifetimes in plural also is insufficient. What is the whole point? Like I mentioned, the key point in this whole verse is the word that is used called utsuka. They were eager. They were very anxious. That eagerness or the anxiousness for the Lord is the only qualification required. How eager I am. How much of eagerness I have. Or after everything is over, every responsibility is done, all my things are over, then okay, take a Krishna, I'll also see. Eagerness. Yanis, they are going in the vehicles, satasa, hundreds of them, they are coming. They want to have the darshan of the Lord. These are all very powerful things. Actually, sometimes people blame that I cannot practice bhakti because of my past. I cannot practice bhakti because of my profession. I'm so busy, or I've got something. I cannot practice bhakti because my environment is not very conducive. I've got so many things to do, Prabhu. What you know? What is going on in my life? No. The only thing that can stop bhakti, only thing, is my own lack of desire. My own lack of desire. Nothing else. Lack of eagerness. Krishna consciousness, the purport, the second, third line, if you see, Prabhupada is saying, devotional service to the Lord is uncheckable in all circumstances. It cannot be checked. That is why ahetuki apratihata cannot be checked. It's whoever gives whatever excuse, the only excuse that boils down to is my own lack of desire. There is nothing else. So Krishna is not asking, are you qualified? If you see the qualification, prostitutes don't have anything. But Krishna is asking, are you willing? Are you eager? That is why the word used is utsuka. Tatra laulyam ekalam mulyam. That is what Bhakti Siddhanta, that's what Rupa Goswami says in Nectar of Devotion. Tatra laulyam ekalam mulyam. Nothing else is needed. You need that eagerness. And that cannot be purchased. Koti janma sukriti bhirna labhyate. You cannot buy it. Even if it is found anywhere, you take it, you grab it, you aspire to have that. These prostitutes have that. They are not philosophically advanced, they're not morally perfect, they're not socially respected, but they have some qualification which most people don't have. Intense eagerness for Krishna. Intense eagerness, utsuka. So, I want to take a little detour and make you explain something, what actually happens when we take to this process of devotion. Prabhupada is mentioning I found there are 4 or 5 very powerful lines, and we will focus on that. First one was, we may not hate even the prostitutes if they are devotees of the Lord. How, why, what thought comes when you hear the word prostitute? You may think of whatever it is socially, but Prabhupada's, the sentence that he's using here is, it is understood herewith that even in those days, by tricks of chance, one may be obliged to adopt a profession which is not very adorable in society. But that doesn't happen. Whoever you are, in whatever condition you are, nobody can check that eagerness for Krishna. Whatever circumstances, what to do? No, that eagerness for Krishna is there. By tricks of chance, maybe our external situation is not favorable. Something has happened. They have got that eagerness for Krishna. What Bhagavatam does is, and how these people, so imagine if I say that, our temple has the 3rd anniversary coming up in July, and the darshan on the day of anniversary will be open. Whom do you expect? So you will say that, okay, Prabhu, some students will come, some families will come, and so on and so forth. And somebody says there are also prostitutes, well-known prostitutes. What thought we will have? What will go on in our mind? Maybe we are not very comfortable with that. But Bhagavatam is telling us not to label people based on their material identity. See their spiritual identity. Now, this is the beauty of the difference of studying scripture. They enable us to have a vision to see the world. Not that we will see things, we will see different things. We will see the same things, but our understanding and perception of those things will change dramatically, very significantly. We all read Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is one book which can completely transform our vision. It has the power to transform our vision. In several places in Bhagavad Gita, this is mentioned how we can purify or transform our vision. What is the Sanskrit word for vision or to see? Huh? Darshan, okay. Chakshu is the eyes. To see, verb. Pashyam, pash dhatu, pashyati. Drish is drishyate. Ikshati. It's a vision. Vision is not just merely looking, it is looking attentively. It is looking beyond the surface. It is seeing, it's a deeper vision where you try to see what else, what is there inside this. The English word that is very close to this is called insight. Do you have insight about it? In Sanskrit, there is a word which is called darshan. Right? They say there is sad darshan philosophy. Vedas means knowledge, and how do you see this knowledge? Darshan. Right? So in Bhagavad Gita, in many places, Krishna uses this word very beautifully. What actually happens when we acquire spiritual knowledge? When we have the spiritual wisdom, we become enabled to see things differently. We can actually see, there's a place which Prabhupada says, we can see four things. I mean, you're reading Bhagavad Gita. When you read Bhagavad Gita with this vision, you'll be able to see four things. One, first, seeing reality within illusion. This whole world is called, they call it Maic world, Maya, that which is not. But there is reality, seeing reality within illusion. You can see the spirit within matter. What most people see is the material body, the matter, and when you see matter, what comes to your mind is, how do I exploit? How do I enjoy? How do I grab this? How do I have this? How do I possess this? You can see spirit beyond the matter. You can see with an even mind. These are all there in Bhagavad Gita. Evenness, samatvam, equanimity, right? Seeing with the even mind. And then you can see Krishna everywhere. Krishna is not just there in the temple in deities, not there in Vaikuntha, not just there, he is there everywhere. The yogis, the introspective sage, because of the introspection that they do, they see within, they see the soul beyond the body, they see the Paramatma next to the soul. They develop a vision by which they can see reality within illusion. They can see soul within the body. They can see with an even mind. They're not disturbed with happiness and distress, with fame and infamy, with gold and pebbles, seeing with an evenness of mind. They're seeing Krishna everywhere. There are many beautiful verses of Bhagavad Gita where they talk about this vision. Wonderful verses. That is how this verse is talking about. Even though those prostitutes were there, the Dwarkavasis were not disturbed. They were coming, but they have that eagerness to see the Lord. One verse of Bhagavad Gita, which I would like to point out, maybe 2-3 verses. Actually, there are many verses, but the one that I thought I will share with you is Ya Nisha Sarvabhutanam. Ya Nisha Sarvabhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Samyami. Ya Nisha Sarvabhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Samyami. Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sa Nisha Pashyato Mune. The word that is used there is Pash. Sa Nisha Pashyato Mune. Ya Nisha Sarvabhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Samyami. Ya Nisha Sarvabhutanam. What most people perceive as night. Literally that means night, Nisha. Ya Nisha Sarvabhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Samyami. Samyami is a beautiful word. You want to see things differently, you want to understand the reality, you want to see the spirit and matter, you have to become Samyami. Samyami means who's controlling, who's not being pulled by the external senses, who's not being pulled by this mind, who's able to pull them within. Samyami. Ya Nisha Sarvabhutanam Tasyam Jagrati Samyami. What is night for most people is a state of awakening for Samyami, who has controlled his senses. Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani, and when Bhutani, when these people are awake, They're busy doing something, planning for their sense gratification. Sa nisha pashyato mune. An introspective sage, a person who is doing who's endeavoring for self-realization, he takes rest. This is literal meaning. But what does this deeper meaning is, people who are not trained, who are not introspective, they are seeing material world and they are seeing wonderful avenue for sense gratification. That is what is being perceived. That is what is advertised. That is what is glamorized. That is what the whole world is talking about. But these people, the Pashyato Mune, the introspective says they are seeing this is darkness. This is not what I am supposed to indulge in. And when they are taking some austerity, which this materialistic people are thinking, oh my God, this is so difficult. Who is going to do this? I think this is a state of awakening. They're able to perceive the soul within the body. They're able to perceive the Lord within this material world. It's the difference of vision. Actually, the word Pashyati, there are many places in Bhagavad Gita, countless places. One very nice verse, just to give you an example. Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam bimudha nanu pashyanti jnana chakshusha. Utkramantam. Utkramantam is to cross over or to leave. Utkramantam. Sometimes the soul leaves the body. The person is called dead. Utkramantam sthitam vapi. Sometimes the soul is there within the body of each one of us. That's why we are sitting straight. We're able to sit straight with our backbone erect. Utkramantam sthitam vapi. Whether this or that. Bhunjanam va gunanvitam. Sometimes gunas, this material modes of nature are acting on us, and either we are enjoying or suffering. Bhunjanam va gunanvitam. Bimudha nanu pashyati. Person who is foolish, who has not developed this vision, cannot see this. Vimudha nanu pashyati pashyanti jnana chakshusha. Whereas an introspective sage who has developed this transcendental knowledge, pashyanti jnana chakshusha. Very beautiful verse these are. There's another powerful verse which Krishna mentions. The beginning of Bhagavad Gita, these are all there. Let's see how many of you are awake and how many of you are asleep. How many of you have read Bhagavad Gita? How many of you have read? Not read, Prem? Never? This is Bhagavad Gita. Available in many languages. You can open and you can read. Nice. You can get some transcendental knowledge. Anybody has tried reading Bhagavad Gita? Okay. The second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, okay, there is an analytical difference between body and soul is given. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. These books are not meant to be worshipped at home, keeping them and doing arti. It is meant to be opened and read. And read with a particular vision inside. I want to understand this. You're also very familiar with Bhagavad Gita. I've been reading. What is the verse that Krishna speaks, where he speaks about the definition of what truth is? In second chapter. Okay. What is the 2.16? What is the verse? Raise your hand if you know. Kya Badri? Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sato. Ubhayorapi drishtvantas, ubhayorapi drishtvantas, tvanayos tattvadarshivih. Na sato vidyate bhavo. Na sato asat vidyate bhavo. Na sato vidyate bhavo. Which is non-permanent, which is temporary, which is asat. Na sato vidyate bhavo. It cannot endure. What does that mean? Temporary things, if this book is kept here, somewhere it is lying, how long it will remain like this? It will decay. It will be over, this house. This is temple, but even if it is a normal house, if it is just allowed to remain like this, it will decay. Same holds true for our body. Na sato vidyate bhavo. Na sato asat vidyate bhavo. Na sato vidyate bhavo. For asat, there is no endurance. Na bhavo vidyate sataha. Na bhavo, na abhava. Sata, which is permanent, which is eternal, for that there is no cessation. It continues to remain. Like our soul. This is a temporary covering. This will go. Another covering will come. That will go. Another will come. It will go. Before this covering, we had another covering. But the Sat, the soul, is eternal. Na sato vidyate bhavo. What is the first line? Na bhavo vidyate sato ubhayorapi drishtvantas tva anayos tattvadarshivī. Who is saying this? Tattvadarshi. Who has seen the truth, who have realized. How they are saying? By studying the nature of both, Asat and Sat, temporary and permanent. They have studied, they have seen, and they are saying, Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sate, ubhayorapi drishtvantas tva anayos tattvadarshivī. So if we develop this spiritual knowledge, if we study this, it is meant to bring that transformation. It is meant to change our vision, meant to change the perception of our life. Prabhupada then, and what happens exactly, when the vision changes? Prabhupada mentions in the purport, in the next example that he's giving. He's giving the example of Bilwa Mangal Thakur. Okay? Bilwa Mangal Thakur is a great acharya of the Vishnu Swami Vaishnava sect. In his household life, he was overly attached to a prostitute who happened to be a devotee of the Lord. And Prabhupada is saying, so it was a stormy night. It was just heavily pouring, thunder. And he's so attached to this prostitute. He's not able to resist. He has his wife at his home. But he goes and he sees that the river is flooding. And then he couldn't find any boatman. He has to cross the river to go and meet Chintamani. He finds something, appears like a log, and he takes the help of that to cross the river, only to realize when he reaches the other side that it's a dead body. And he goes and he sees that, Chintamani's house is locked. She lives in the second floor. Everything, the lights are off. There is nothing. It is heavy rain. She can't even hear if he shouts. So what to do? He thought that let me go through the window. How do you climb the window? How do you reach the window? She is in the second floor. How do you reach there? And he looked at the house and he saw that there was something like a creeper which was hanging. He thought, maybe let's take the help of this. And he goes. And when he enters into the house, he realizes, he looks back and he sees that it's a snake. And he comes and just for the attraction of the flesh. And he comes and he looks at Chintamani. Chintamani was stunned. One line she told. One line. The attraction that you have for me, if you develop the same attraction for Krishna, you will be transformed. One line changed Bilwa Mangal Thakur. Same person. When the vision is changed, she was appearing as an object of enjoyment, as a prostitute. Now he's saying, she is my guru. Chintamani, Prabhupada is saying, Bilwa Mangal Thakur, it was a momentous hour for the Thakura and he took a turn towards spiritual realization by the words of a prostitute. Later on, the Thakura accepted the prostitute as a spiritual master. Same person. Vision changes. Destiny changes. Same material world. When our vision changes, our destiny changes. In regard to this, there's a very beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita. Balaram Prabhu says his favorite verse in Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, when he started reading was, what is that? Yukta hara biharasya, yukta chestasya karmasu, yukta sopna bhavadasya, dukkha. What is the last line? That is the verse, right? In moderation. You have to be temperate in your eating, sleeping, recreation and sleep. Right? Whatever, that verse. Yuktahara viharasya. That is a very powerful verse. One of my favorite verses of Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter. Wonderful verse, which talks about anybody who's even faintly interested in spiritual life. whichever path he wants to take. Whether it is Jnana Marga, whether it is Ashtanga Yoga, whether it is Karma Yoga, whether it is Bhakti, if you want to take, you must do this. 6th chapter verse of very powerful verses, one of my favorite verses. Prasanta Atma Bigata Bhir. Prasanta Atma Bigata Bhir Brahmachari Brate Sthita. Prasanta Atma Bigata Bhir Brahmachari Brate Sthita. Manasamyamya Matchitto Yukta Asita Matparaha. Manasamyamya Matchitto Yukta Asita Matparaha. Beautiful verse. You see, our life is a journey. Right? Isn't it? Not journey from Andhra Pradesh to United States, or not from Uttar Pradesh to United States, but a journey from birth to death. Journey from material knowledge to spiritual knowledge, from material life to spiritual life. If you have to traverse this journey, birth to death is easy. Whether you do anything or not, you will anyway reach the destination. But if you want to reach the spiritual destination, if you want to go to Goloka Vrindavan and you want to use this life, this time that has been given as a journey, the vehicle that has been given to us is this body. What else we have? This body is the only means. If you compare this body to be a vehicle, the most important thing in this vehicle is steering. Have you ever driven a car or a vehicle where the steering is very hard? You want to drive to the right, or you want to take, you've got that experience? So our vehicle, the vehicle which is the vehicle of the body, steering is our mind. And if the mind is asanta, always agitated, disturbed, you cannot drive. How will you drive? Forget about reaching the destination. You'll meet with an accident. So first thing is prasantatma. And here Atma refers to mind. Mind has to be pacified, quiet. Prasantatma. If you are agitated constantly by what people are saying, which environment you are in, what kind of senses are there, how senses are pulling you in all directions, your own thoughts, your own samskaras, they are coming, and the mind is disturbed, how will you engage in devotional service? Prasantatma. Second thing that Krishna says is Bigata Bhir. Bhi refers to Bhaya. Fear. Imagine, Prem, I tell you, behind you there is a snake. Okay? Don't worry, you keep listening. He's there somewhere, huh? Don't worry. Will you be quiet? Will you be saying, or will you keep? Or if I say that, you sit here in the class and we'll keep a snake around you and you still listen. So you look at the snake or you look at me? Where will you? We're fearful. If you're fearful, you cannot practice devotional life. There used to be a king by name Bhartruhari who has written a beautiful literature. It's called Vairagya Satak. Earlier days when people used to become, if they have breakups, if the girlfriend leaves, they become poetic and they write. Not like they take to some substance and drink and get admitted somewhere. He wrote beautiful thing called Vairagya Satak. Before that he has written Sringar Satak. And after that he wrote Vairagya Satak. Not that some big breakup happened. What happened was his necklace, he had given it to someone. Okay, apart from his queen. Somebody else was there. And that lady gave it to somebody else that she loves. And that person gave it to somebody else. And in return it came back to his queen, his wife. He thought, I never gave it to my queen. I gave it to somebody else. How did it reach? Then he developed detachment. Vairagya Satak. In that he writes one verse which is very nice. He says, Bhoge roga bhayam. Suppose you have got a lot of means of enjoyment. Bhaya, fear comes if whatever you have, there is a fear that what if it is taken away? I have got wealth, I have got money, I have got possession, I have got children, I have got this, I have got that, I have got... But what if it is taken away? Beauty, my youth. That is fear. Bhoge roga bhayam. First is Bhoge roga bhayam. Krishna Prabhupada uses these three words, yogi, rogi and bhogi. Many places. What is the symptom of a yogi and rogi and a bhogi? Many places, many things Prabhupada says. But if you become bhogi, you are bound to become rogi. If you are a yogi, then you will never become rogi. Why? Because if you keep indulging bhogi, bhoga, 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 but natural you'll have roga. Bhogi will become rogi. But if you are a yogi, then you will have never roga. You'll remain this thing. So bhoge roga bhayam. You're enjoying, you've got a lot of these things, means of enjoyment. There's always a fear, what if this is taken away? Bhoge roga bhayam. Then there is kule chuti bhayam. You're born in a very nice family, very high parentage, nice this thing, kule chuta bhayam. There is a fear that some blemish will come to my family lineage. What will happen if I do this? I'm always scared about that. Arjuna mentions about this kulakshaya, kule chuti bhayam. Then vitte and ripalad bhayam. You have a lot of money, you are fearful that some thieves will come, they will steal away, they will take away. So you do this insurance, you do this, you put it there, you safe deposit, you do all kinds of things. Vitte and ripalad bhayam. Mane dainya bhayam. You've got some prestige, you've got some this thing in society. Dainya bhayam. What if somebody blemishes you? Now, social media, anybody can talk anything about anybody. They can put some comments which is not good for you, and then, your whole, this thing is tarnished, gone. Mane dainya bhayam. Then, bale ripu bhayam. You have some power, you have strength, you have got something, ripu bhayam. What if somebody else becomes more powerful? Bale ripu bhayam. Then, rupe jaraya bhayam. Beautiful, rupa. You're fearful that, what if a wrinkle comes, pimple, wrinkle, then gone. Jara, or you become old, then that this thing is gone, face beauty is gone. Rupe jaraya bhayam, sastre vadi bhayam. You're very learned, somebody comes and challenges you and defeats you. Sastre vadi bhayam. Gune khala bhayam. You've got some good qualities, but still somebody finds some fault at you. Hey, nahi, isme to wo nahi hai. Gune khale bhayam. And then finally he says, kaye kritante bhayam. This is the most, fear that my body will finish. हम सोते रहते हैं, लाइफ में जब मौका मिलता है कि अभी ले लेना चाहिए स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ को, तब हम डिले करते हैं. We keep postponing, we keep busy with some other things. And kritante bhayam. Bhagavatam says this is the root cause of all the fears. Bhaya ditya abhiniveshataha. Because we are so attached with this body, we are very fearful. Death will come and it will take away everything. So, prasantatma bigata bhiradhen brahmachari brate sthita. So important. If anybody wants to practice devotional life, brahmachari brate. Doesn't matter whether you are a grihastha, whether you are a brahmachari. The word brahmachari, whose mobile is that? Can you put it on silent? Brahmachari brate, brahmacharya. Brahma means Vedas, Brahma means the transcendence, Charya is to practice. Actually, if somebody wants to remain brahmachari, the most important thing which Prabhupada says is to marry the sastras, scriptures. One has to have the taste for reading scriptures. Otherwise, brahmacharya is very difficult. Very, very difficult. Bhagavatam has got countless examples of brahmacharya. So many examples are given. There is an example of Yayati, there is an example of Pururava, there is an example of Indra, there is an example of Brahma falling for his own daughter, Indra going after the daughter of Rishi, Gautami Rishi, his wife. Then, this Chandra, he is going after the wife of his own guru. Why? Because this is the most dangerous thing. The whole creation is running in this material world because there is attraction between male and female. If there would have been no attraction, there is no creation possible. Of all the things that is there, the biggest, the strongest attraction is attraction for opposite sex. That's why brahmacharya is very important. Two things, if there is no pleasure in eating, bhojan, which is required for subsistence of the body, just food is required for our subsistence, nothing else. But there is a taste, and we get addicted to that taste. Similarly, for the srishti, for this creation, union is required. But there is a pleasure. So people go for that. So subsistence of the body, bhojan, subsistence of the society or creation, sambhog, and sex. It is so prominent. So much there, not just in us, in every species of life. That's why Prabhupada is saying, some lower men, for them, it is needed. Why this brahmacharya? That's why one ashram itself is called brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is so important. The reason being, there is a very nice verse in Bhagavatam which comes, it says that, Najatu kama kamanam upabhogena samyati. When somebody goes for this, when this desire to enjoy is there inside, whatever process of spiritual realization he's trying, he'll not be able to do because that mind will get disturbed. Mind will be having so much of disturbance and agitation, and with agitation and disturbance, this cannot be done. Najatu kama kamanam upabhogena samyati. It never gets satisfied. You look for newer and newer things. Aur chahiye, naya chahiye. Najatu kama kamanam upabhogena samyati. Habisha Krishna bhartameva bhuyo eva vivardate. Very powerful verse. Najatu kama kama. Nobody in this world has satisfied his lust desires by fulfilling it. No, it grows more. It grows more and more and more. Najatu kama kama nam upabhogena samyati. Habisha Krishna bhartameva bhuyo eva vivardate. I would recommend you to read one lecture or hear lecture of Prabhupada. This is, Prabhupada has given this lecture in New York. It is, the lecture is here actually. 6.1.11 New York lecture. It's a beautiful lecture. I strongly recommend you hear this. Prabhupada gives very classic example of what this brahmacharya is and how this is so important, because what it does is it brings us to the state of darkness when you have ignorance in bodily concept of life. That's why Krishna says it very nicely. Kamaesha krodhaesha rajoguna samudbhava mahasano mahapapma viddhyanam. This is the most dreaded enemy. Most dreaded. It brings us to a state of confusion, darkness, ignorance. And usually if you see people who are having this desire to enjoy will always be accompanied by madhyapan or having some substance. They go hand in hand because your consciousness becomes dull. Right? So the foundation of brahmacharya is that, the foundation of spiritual life is brahmacharya. If you see, the child doesn't have any desire to enjoy the opposite sex, but those samskaras are there. And if he is not trained, then there is chaos and there is havoc. So there is a very beautiful, the whole process of brahmacharya, even if you study from the Ashtanga Yoga point of view, it is supposed to, the yoga process is supposed to make these chakras go upwards, right? You have to awaken your chakras. But if it goes downwards, that is what happens with the animals. So animalistic tendency comes. Brahmacharya is a minimum. In this lecture, Prabhupada talks about, like we do any activity physically, mentally, and by words, similarly, this lust or sex also can be done, not just by physical union, by three ways: in our mind, in our words, and in physical activity. Another name of lust is actually called a manoja, because it is produced in the mind. Manasija, it is born out of mind. Most of the things happen in the mind. There is nothing actually. But this mind creates so much of this thing for that, we get agitated. And if you sufficiently contemplate in your mind, then it becomes words. You think, you talk about it, and then it becomes an activity. In this lecture, Prabhupada actually quotes about 8 things about brahmacharya. I'm just sharing, it's very, very interesting, very nice. Smaranam, kirtanam, keli, prekshanam, guhyamasanam, sankalpa, adhyavasaya, kriyanebrati. Smaranam. First thing that happens is when you remember about it. Something you saw, something happens, you're not free from this social media, this thing, and then something happens and then you remember about it. That's the first thing. Smaranam. And what happens after smaranam? Kirtanam. Then you talk about it. 99% of the jokes in this world are all about this thing. Even if you are grown up, even if you are a child, even if you are this, kirtanam, they talk about this. Smaranam, kirtanam. Then there is keli. Keli means, you take some pleasure in the association of the opposite sex. you become very casual, trivial. ठीक है, कुछ भी बोल सकते हैं. There are things that you cross the line. That is called keli, prekshanam. Then you look at the other person of opposite sex with the desire to enjoy, prekshanam. Smaranam, kirtanam, keli, prekshanam. Then guhyam asanam. Then you talk about some confidentially. You talk about privately how you can enjoy secretively, all those things. Then sankalpa. Then you make a determination. Adhyavasaya. Then you endeavor, and kriya nivritti. Then you actually physically do. So these are the 8 stages of brahmacharya. Means one should get rid of these 8 things. Right? Etad maithunam astangam pravadanti manishinanti vikara brahmacharya etad. Prabhupada says about this. So how to see or how to understand what we see is very important. So that's why that verse is one of the powerful verses of Bhagavad Gita, where it says prasantatma bigatabhir brahmachari bratesthita. How will you be able to do that? He says there are 2 words that he uses, Krishna uses, mana samyamya matchitto yukta hasita matparaha. Matchitto is there and matpara is also there. You can control the mind, but the mind, if it is not rested on Krishna, who is the supreme source of all beauty, Machitto matpara. Sarva guhyatamam me iti me bakshami. In the last 18th chapter also Krishna says, in the first thing he says in manmana, think of me. Manmana. Machitto matparaha. Yukta asita matparaha. So this is the second most important point. And then Prabhupada concludes this purport with a very powerful line. He says that the criterion of advancement of civilization is whether the people are educated and advanced on the path of salvation. The criteria of advancement of civilization is not how much of money you have, how much educated you are, how nicely you have developed avenues for enjoyment, how nicely you are using AI. No. Criterion of advancement of civilization is whether the people are educated and advanced on the path of salvation. So, if I have to conclude this whole thing that I was talking about, okay, one of the most important words which is used in this verse is Utsuka, eagerness for Krishna. Okay. And then it talks about developing a vision. Or level 1 is material vision, where we are saying this is mine, this is for my enjoyment. It leads to attachment and agitation. Second level may be moral vision, this is right, wrong, but still it is better but external. The third one is the spiritual vision. This is Krishna's energy. It leads to respect, detachment and devotion. And brahmacharya actually begins when our vision becomes spiritual. Right? And we saw the example of Bilva Mangal Thakur, how the person is still the same, person didn't change, but his vision changed, and because of that vision change of vision, an object of enjoyment becomes a spiritual master. The thing is, it's talking about prostitutes. We may not be, we may say, how is it related to us? Okay, you may not be a prostitute, but we have so much of conditioning. Today, we are surrounded by so many triggers. Social media, advertisements, culture. What do? Don't just fight externally. Upgrade your vision internally. We cannot always control what we see, but we can change how we see. How we see those things, we can change. There is one story which comes to my mind, and with that we will close. The story is, there were 2 people who were admitted in hospital in ICU. One was a young man, very strong, very nice body, well built, beautiful, and an old man also. He was frail, his body is wrinkled and shriveled, it's shrunk, and both of them were there in ICU. Now, whether they will survive or not is not dependent on their background, is not dependent on their body, is not dependent on their bank balance, is not dependent on their wealth, none of those. It is dependent on one thing, the strong desire to live. Similarly, in our life also, right, when we have taken up to this path of devotion, okay, and when we have, by this thing we have come to this path of devotion by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, what really matters, not our background, not how scholarly we are, not our past. It is our desire for Krishna. How much desire I have for Krishna. Very simple, very easy this is, nothing else. Desire for Krishna. Krishna is not waiting for us to become perfect. No. He's not looking at that. He's waiting for us to become eager. How eager I am for Him. No matter what disqualifications I have in my life. How eager. That is the measure, the metric to see the advancement of spiritualization, like the advancement of civilization, which Prabhupada is saying. Not this, some wealth, this thing, prosperity, happiness, nothing. Desire for salvation, right? Which Prabhupada is mentioning. So these are some of the important things from this verse, wonderful verse. With my limitations, whatever I could share, I shared. But if you have any questions or comments. Srila Prabhupada ki, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari.